This story is drawn from Marvel Comics, animated series, and cinematic adaptations. It weaves together the canonical foundations of Magneto's life to form a chronological narrative of Erik Lehnsherr, the boy who survived the Holocaust, the man who became Magneto, and the mutant who forever stood between hero and villain. Now, let us begin. Magneto's story begins in tragedy. Born Erik Lehnsherr in the 1920s to a Jewish family in Germany, his childhood was shattered by the rise of the Nazis. Separated from his family during the Holocaust, he watched in horror as his parents and relatives were taken from him, victims of humanity's darkest hatred. At Auschwitz, Erik's latent mutant powers first began to stir. In a moment of terror, he bent the metal gates, an instinct of survival, a power tied to his very emotions. But even this gift could not save his family. By the time the war ended, Erik was alone. This loss defined him. It planted in his heart the belief that humanity would always turn on those it feared. And when mutants began to emerge, Erik knew the world would never accept them. In the years that followed, Erik searched for purpose. He fell in love, married, and had a daughter. But even that happiness was short-lived. When his powers manifested again in public, anti-mutant violence consumed the town. His young daughter was killed in the chaos. The grief and rage that followed pushed Erik over the edge. From that day forward, he vowed never again to be powerless. Never again would he watch his people suffer. Erik Lehnsherr became Magneto. Magneto's philosophy was born from pain. To him, mutants were the next stage of evolution, Homo superior, destined to replace humanity. He believed peaceful coexistence was impossible, that humans would always turn to fear and violence, and so he set himself against the world. But his path was never simple. In his early years, Magneto met Charles Xavier, a fellow mutant who would become both his closest friend and greatest rival. The two shared a vision of protecting mutantkind, but differed in method. Charles dreamed of peace, integration, and trust. Magneto believed survival demanded strength, power, and dominance. Together, they built dreams. Together, they debated endlessly, and ultimately, they parted ways. Their friendship remained, but so did their conflict. Magneto gathered followers, creating the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. With them, he waged war against humanity, striking at governments, armies, and even the X-Men themselves. His ideology inspired some and terrified others. To the world, he was a villain. To mutants who had suffered as he had, he was a savior. Yet Magneto was never a simple tyrant. Again and again his story twisted between destruction and redemption. He built Asteroid M, a refuge for mutants in the skies. He ruled the nation of Genosha, giving his people a homeland, though it too would fall in blood and ruin. He fought the X-Men countless times, and at other moments fought beside them. Even when he opposed Xavier, their bond endured. In rare, quiet moments, they shared respect, even love for one another, knowing they were two sides of the same coin. As the years passed, Magneto's children came into the light. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, and Pietro Quicksilver, both mutants of immense power. Their relationships with their father were strained, defined by anger, misunderstanding, and loss. Yet beneath it all, Magneto's love for them was undeniable, even when his actions drove them apart. Magneto's crusade grew darker as humanity struck back with sentinels, mutant registration, and genocide. Time and again his rage ignited. Cities torn apart, armies crushed beneath his power. His ability to control the very force of magnetism made him one of the most dangerous beings on Earth. But his actions were never mindless. Every strike, every battle was born from the memory of the Holocaust, the screams of his daughter, the endless cycle of oppression. In Magneto's eyes, he was not the villain, he was the protector. And yet, even Magneto could change. There were times when he stood with the X-Men, times when he protected humanity from greater threats. For every atrocity he committed, there were also moments of true heroism. He saved lives. He defended the weak. He proved again and again that his story was not one of evil, but of a man broken by tragedy, striving for justice in the only way he believed possible. Magneto's legacy is complicated. To some, he is a monster, a terrorist who brought fear to the world. To others, he is a symbol, a voice that demanded dignity for mutants when no one else would. And to Charles Xavier, he will always be something more, a friend, a rival, and the man who showed the world that survival has many faces. This is the story of Erik Lehnsherr, Holocaust survivor, father, friend, enemy. This is the story of Magneto, mutant, liberator, and one of the most complex figures the world has ever known. If you enjoyed this retelling of Magneto's journey, be sure to give the video a like. It helps more people discover these stories. And if you'd like to hear more audiobook-style narrations from across comics, films, and legends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story.